Being in Otatai seems fun. I am Chris with the Joshi Wrestling Recap for Stardom January 22nd, 2022, available on Stardom World. Feels like Stardom is just killing time for a bit until the pay-per-view on the 29th. A few members of the roster were not on the show, so the card was changed. Not any story beats really, but the wrestling was good. There was no commentary, and it was a multi-camera show. The opening match was Waka Tsukiyama versus Sakikishima. This was a nice opening match, but nothing really to write home about. Waka tried to get the jump on Saki when she had her back turned, but any advantage was short-lived. Saki dominated for most of the match. There was a weird spot, I wasn't sure if it was an accident or not. Waka went for a crossbody from the second rope, but landed on Saki's back. I think Waka was supposed to go over Saki, but they both seemed fine after. Sakikishima hit Waka Tsukiyama with the My Emblem for the pinfall win. The second match was a three-way match. Kaguma versus Mei Sakurai versus Unagi Sayaka. This was a fun match. Unagi and Kaguma have nice chemistry together. When the match started, Unagi and Mei tried to trick Kaguma to shake their hands by doing the bear ears pose. Kaguma reluctantly did, but then got kicked by both. Mei then threw Mai to the corner into Kaguma multiple times, then rolls up Mei, but Mei kicks out. Unagi did the sequence 2 times, throwing Mei into Kaguma, then rolling up Mei. It was pretty funny. This felt like a match between Kaguma and Unagi mostly, but Mei would interject herself at times. Near the end it looked like Unagi would get a submission win on Mei, but it was Kaguma who got the win with her special side roll-up pin on Mei Sakurai. The third match was a tag match, Mayu Iwatani with Hazuki versus Mina Shirakawa and Tam Nakano. This was a good match, and would be expected with a match with 2 of the best wrestlers on the roster, Mayu and Tam. Mayu and Tam started with some holes in mat wrestling before tagging out. Mina and Hazuki took over for a time after that. Hazuki was not really having it with Mina's poses and gave her some kicks for her trouble. Later, Mina was able to get the Romero special on Hazuki. When Mayu and Tam came back into the match, it felt like they went off on each other. These 2 wrestlers have a lot of history and great chemistry. The few minutes that they were in against each other were the best minutes of the show for me. Hazuki and Mina were back in the match for the ending portion. After they traded pin attempts, Hazuki was able to get the win on Mina Shirakawa with her Hazuki Strahl cradle pin. The fourth match was another big tag match, this time between Maika and Siri versus the team of Sayakamitani and Utami Hayashishida. This was the hardest hitting match on the card, lots of kicks, suplexes, forearms, body slams, and lariats. Shuri and Saya started for their teams and traded arm drags and holds for a bit before Shuri kicked Saya in the back hard. They both tagged out at that point, and tags happened pretty often with double team moves throughout the match. Maika had a few great feats of strength against Saya in the match. The first was when Maika caught Saya while she attempted a crossbody from the top rope. The second was when Maika hit a delayed superplex on Saya, which is something she did last week also, but is still very impressive. Maika and Saya were in the match for the end. It took Sayakamitani hitting Maika with 2 star crushers to get the pin. Saya got her pin back from Maika from last week, but this feels like a feud that will continue and culminate in a Wonder of Stardom white belt match in the future. That brings us to the main event, a trios match between Donna Del Mondo, Julia, Tekla, and Mirai versus Watatai, Starlight Kid, Momo Watanabe, and Waka. This was a good match, but with so many people in the match coming in and out and Watatai shenanigans, it is a bit hard to break down. Pre-match, Watatai did their backstage promo selfie style, which looked pretty well and suits them. Before the bell rang, the ref tried to remove Waka's box from ringside 2 times, but each time Sakikishima, who was ringside, would just put it back when the ref's back was turned, which I laughed at. Momo and Julia started for their teams and went straight to forearming each other and trading headlocks before they tagged out. After that, Waka and Mirai had a bit of a shoulder tackle battle, which ended up being a draw. Later in the match, Mirai did a cool transition. She transitioned her standing stretch submission into a side driver thing, which I have not seen before. Julia and Starlight Kid did get scrappy at one point also. Starlight Kid was trying to pull Julia's hair out, so Julia got back at her by trying to take the fur and ears off the mask, which Starlight Kid did not appreciate. After the ring was cleared, we had Julia and Naraka alone. Julia got Naraka in the Stealth Viper submission, which Naraka couldn't escape, a second time for the submission win. There was good wrestling throughout the show, the final 2 matches, and there is that few minutes where Tam Nakano and Mayu Iwatani went at each other that I would check out if you have the time. The next Stardom show is on the 23rd. This has been the Joshi Wrestling Recap for Stardom January 22nd, 2022. Thanks for listening.